hear me out, y'all. Tyler Kolek has been going insane in the NBA Summer League. And if I'm being honest, I think the Knicks got themselves a steal. He might end up becoming the most underrated player of the 2024 NBA draft. He gives the Knicks what they need coming off the bench, being an excellent passer and being that guy that can score when he needs to. He has the IQ and the mindset of a winning player. However, though, how will that translate into the NBA? Jalen Brunson's already going to be playing about 30 plus minutes a game. With the Knicks having 3 backup point guards in Miles McBride, Cam Payne, and Tyler Kolek, is that depth necessary? And I don't mean that in a bad way because, in the playoffs last year, we needed some extra guys down the stretch because a lot of our players got injured. But what I'm trying to say is we just signed Cam Payne to a 1-year deal. Miles McBride performed very well in the regular season and in the playoffs, backing up Jalen Brunson. So do we trade him while his value is high? And no, I do not want to trade McBride, but the name of this video is called The Last Resort. And if y'all know, the New York Knicks are in desperate need of a backup center or a starting center. So do we trade McBride while we can and trust in our backup point guards in Tyler Kolek and Cam Payne? You see, I really like McBride because of his hustle and his defense, and I think he'll work very well in a lineup with OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart. But imagine that same lineup with Tyler Kolek in it, being able to facilitate and feed those guys, spot those guys up, and score when he needs to. Like I said, Jalen Brunson's already going to be playing about 30 plus minutes a game. So these guys are going to be coming off the bench, giving us about 10 to 15 minutes. Even if you try to move Miles McBride to the 2, we're already starting Mikal Bridges at the 2, as well as Dante DiVincenzo, who's now going to be coming off the bench, who is another great player who started for us. So him being a backup is going to be even excellent. So it's like, where does McBride fit in? Now, as of right now, yes, he's the better option out of the 2. He's most likely going to be our backup point guard. But as of right now, we have 3 backup point guards, and I really think that trading Miles McBride for a starting center or a backup center can really boost this team, take this team to the next level. If the Knicks can work on a solid deal, going for guys like Walker Kessler or even Brook Lopez and maybe a first in return, second in return. The only thing is, trading with the Bucks is kind of trading with a rival because these are 2 teams that are contending in the East. And if I remember correctly, Brook Lopez's contract is expensive. So Walker Kessler is obviously the better option. With him being young, very young, if there's a way we can make a deal for Walker Kessler, and it has to include Miles McBride, I wouldn't be too upset because, like I said, we have many options. But this is a last resort in acquiring a starting or a backup center. Now let's say Tyler Kolek actually rises the Knicks bench and he's not sent down to the G League or whatever. Us having Miles McBride, Cam Payne, and Tyler Kolek is way too many guards on that bench, as I've said multiple times already. Now, this is kind of similar to when we traded Quentin Grimes for Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks when we sent up to the Detroit Pistons, except we lost both of those guys, but it did help us set up our trade for Mikal Bridges. I do think McBride has very high trade value, and if there was a possible way for us to get Alperen Sengun, who is my favorite center in the league currently, at least my favorite young player, he would be a fair asset to throw into that deal. I'm not saying McBride for Sengun straight up, but if McBride was to be traded, I would love to include him in a deal for Alperen Sengun, knowing that we have the backup assets at the 1 to get back a very valuable asset at the 5. Whatever the Knicks do, if they do end up trading Miles McBride, like I said, this is a last resort. Please, if we're going to trade for a center like Nikola Vucevic or Clint Capella, cool, but make sure if we're trading McBride, make sure we are getting picks back in return. Let's not give up picks, but make sure we're getting picks back in return. And if y'all seen my other video of the lineups the Knicks needs to run, I had a lineup of McBride, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and Mitch Robinson. So that was like a defensive lineup. And Miles McBride is a very great defender and hustle player, like I've said. So if we end up keeping him, I think he can be a very versatile 1 or 2. Like, he can run that 1 or the 2 position, maybe the 3. That might be pushing it. Like, as we have Josh Hart. I know Josh Hart isn't even that tall, but you might end up seeing him run a 5 sometimes. Same with OG Anunoby. He was guarding Joel Embiid in the playoffs at some moments. So it's like we have those players. Having a player like Miles McBride who can guard any guard, Josh Hart that can guard any forward or who's willing to guard any forward, OG Anunoby who can guard a big or a forward, Mikal who's a great defender. It's like we have all those guys on the floor. Other team's offense is not going to know where to go. So that's why I don't want to give up Miles McBride, because of his defense, his hustle, and his ability to score the ball as well. Like, you can throw him in many different lineups. Like I said, Jalen Brunson, he went down with a hand injury. You know, Thibs has a reputation of playing these guys a lot of minutes. So us having these 3 backup guards won't really hurt. You know, Cam Payne doesn't even have to get minutes at all. He can be one of those guys that just comes in when somebody goes down or somebody needs the rest. And he also has the experience as well. Cameron Payne went to the finals in 2021 with Mikal Bridges, who's also a Knick. So it's like, this team is putting a lot, it's like putting pieces to a puzzle together.